All right, everybody, welcome to Drop Dice. I am Chris. Tonight we are going to play some index card RPG. This is a game that was put out by Runehammer Games from the YouTube channel Drunkets of Dragons, which I've talked about on my channel before. This is kind of like his brainchild, all written out and fully developed into a game set that has a lot of strong ties to kind of more traditional elements of D&D, but really knocking out a lot of this stuff that gets away from awesome play. So what we're going to try and do tonight is run the Eyes of Sett adventure, which comes with the core book. It's pretty bare bones, and it gives a lot of liberty to the GM to add stuff as it goes, but I'm probably going to run it pretty close to as is. So if you intend on playing this with your own GM, avert your eyes, don't watch now, because you might ruin some fun stuff for you later. Or just tell the GM that you really want to watch this movie and have him modify it, because it's not that hard to change up things. I do like to go around and just talk about who's on the channel with me, because these guys do have stuff that they are a part of. And they can tell me if they've got any experience with index card RPG, since I'm the noob here. Let's start with Jeff.
Yes, I'm Jeff. Coming here from the YouTube channel Counterbalance. And this is actually my first ever time with index card RPG as well. So I am also a newbie with the system, but I'm looking forward to giving it a try.
Okay, and Dave?
Yeah, I'm Dave, and I have had a chance to play it twice now. Once at AtCon with Brandon, and then recently with the his live play of he was testing the insanity rules. So recently did a review of it on my channel, Mornblade Gaming. So
awesome. And Jason?
Hey, my name's Jason. I've played it, I don't know, maybe a dozen times now, so I have a pretty good grip on it.
Excellent. So you're going to be our seasoned veteran in case we run into some questionable things.
No problem.
I've had it for a couple days now. I'm pretty good at compacting down rules because I love stuff like Blades in the Dark, which is a little bit more complicated, and then also Burning Wheel, which is probably the most complicated Swiss watch of games ever. So I should be okay, but we'll see how it goes. If I miss anything and you guys notice something that I'm missing, just bring it up. It's cool. I don't care if you are coming across like rules layer or anything, because I'm learning just as much as some of you guys are. So with that in mind, the Eyes of Sett is kind of an Egyptian themed desert-like story. So basically you guys have crossed the Koabi desert, and your company has one hope of resupply, the village of Howl. The image that you can see right behind the Runehammer Games ICRPG logo there is kind of a good representation of what this village is. It's a pretty doomed and dour place. It's very kind of brown, just like the sand of the desert. Nothing really stands out. It's very muted tones, and really, as you walk around this place, you can feel the doom in the air. There's these black bubbles that seem to be boiling out of the well in the center of town. You've heard a few different rumors from around town, and it seems that the only way that you're going to be able to get your water that you need to get across the other half of the desert is to purify this water source. Listening around, you seem to hear rumors about the tomb of a serpent that is below the sands and a demon that dwells there. And that's what's kind of brought you guys together as a group, because while you have kind of adventured together, this would be your first time really forming a group to go out and solve a problem. The people inside the village also whisper about an ancient servant to the forgotten snake gods that dwells below, and they've named it Sarvas. So let's kind of jump things off. The basic target number, just to start us off here, is going to be a 10 as soon as my little mouse comes around here. As the game progresses, I'm going to put target numbers on the screen for our viewers to see what it is and for our players. And then when we have cards that come up, we'll actually display those as well, and that's where the name Index Card RPG comes up. So when we get to our first one, I'll stop and show you guys all that. So the city itself, like I said, it's got a lot of doom and gloom going on inside of it. You guys are pretty worn from the desert. I think Sarek might be the first one to enter and approach. Can you describe Sarek for us?
Definitely. Sadiq is a tall human. He has black hair and probably a little bit of growth. He's definitely sun-worn and wears kind of linen clothing under his leather armor. He also wears a cape. It's like a cloak, and prominently worn though is his longsword. It's the Beggar's Hope. It's his family sword, and was once forged probably 5 generations ago, and given as a gift to his great 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 grandfather. But as Sadiq approaches, he kind of puffs his chest out a little bit and just sort of examines the scene for what he's getting himself into.
All right. Let's go ahead and start things off with kind of an investigation or scouting. Basically, you'll choose one of your ability scores that matches up with the concept of the ability or the thing you're trying to do, and you're going to roll it against that target number. If you have an item that helps you out with scouting or possibly detecting things, please let me know.
So I got a 14. I'm imagining intelligence to be looking with a keen eye for looking out for things.
Yeah. So you're kind of inspecting around this well that is in the center of town, because that's the first real hard concrete clue that's around there. And you can see these tiny black bubbles forming along the edge of the well, and they're just like very minute. But as you get closer, they pop, and as they pop, it's only then that you smell it, but there's the smell of death within these the gas that's being released from the bubbles. And I think that's when Ben approaches from behind.
Yeah. So Ben Biggs comes up. He is a small folk, halfling, the son of a shipbuilder in Gilhelm. I saw the ships growing up and the sailors coming through and had this sense of wonder about the world. So he left home early to become a do-gooder and sort of be a champion of the poor. And he's wearing like a patchwork cloth. Hundreds of little patches of cloth where he's sort of stitched together as he's gone. Probably almost the same set of clothes he left off with the day he left town. And he approaches, sees the bubbling stench, and starts to move around. He's very fast, and starts to kind of move around and take in his surroundings to try and get a better grip on what's going on, because this doesn't look right.
Absolutely. So kind of looking around, if you want to help out, you can also choose to investigate the scene using your own choice of an ability, and I'll tell you what you get from that.
Okay. A wisdom check?
Sure.
All right. 18.
Okay. With an 18, you notice that this well has a bucket that has recently gone down, and it came back up, and there's that black ichor that's inside of there, but there's something that you notice kind of gleaming at the bottom of the well. Or, sorry, the bottom of the bucket that went down the well.
Okay. Do I have more? I grab a twig and I try to poke at it through the bucket to see if I can push it out without touching it.
Yeah, as you do, you can definitely move it around, but you can use the stick to essentially knock the bucket over. You're not going to be able to fish it out, unfortunately, with just kind of a stick.
Okay.
So
let's knock it over.
So when you knock it over, the ichorous fluid just kind of seeps into the earth, and again, that smell of death kind of emanates from the bucket, and you can see that there's about a dozen iron coins stamped with a serpent's head. It's some sort of foreign currency that you're not familiar with.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So
Doom
Jeff,
has beset this land.
Yeah.
Jeff had told us that he may step away at about the 30-minute mark. It looks like he might have stepped away a little early. So we're just going to continue playing, and then when he can join us again. Yeah, as you guys have tipped over the bucket here and looked around, a young woman makes her way to you. Her name is Lillet, and she kind of wears the clothes of one of the desert gypsies, the travelers that are around here. And she approaches you and she says, "I see you have found the problem. Our village seems to be cursed."
How long has this been going?
For a few weeks now. Unfortunately, the water first turned, and it has slowly been seeping into the buildings. Even some of the homes experience some of this creeping death, as they're calling it.
It's foul.
Do the locals use this this watering well as a wishing pool or something? I found some coins in this bucket.
No, it was the main source of water for the village, but whatever has done this, I suggest that you move on. It cannot be good for anyone.
I think we should help these people. I cannot abide such evil blight coming upon these folk. Surely there's something we can do. If there's a curse that can be broken.
I'd have to agree, and let alone it would be mutually beneficial, for we cannot move on without water.
She nods, and I think that's at the point where Jack approaches Sarek and Ben. They seem to be speaking with a woman with dark raven-like hair, very similar to the card that you see in front of you here. And you can kind of hear them talking about it, and it seems that the woman does not want you to investigate or get to the bottom of whatever this is. She's suggesting that you just leave and make your best across the desert with what you have. You guys know that you don't have enough water to make it, even if you were to try.
And as Jack approaches, his hair is messy and he's kind of rubbing his eyes. Sorry I'm late, guys. Anyways, where were we? Or where were you, I guess?
I was just telling these gentlemen, it would be best if you packed your things and continued your caravan forward. Whatever's going on in this village is not your concern. And it's really then when you notice that she carries this big falchion kind of tucked in behind her belts. You can tell that she's determined that she's going to solve whatever this problem is.
Well, unfortunately, from what I've heard, supplies are a bit short these days. If we move on without any more supplies, well, we might be moving on to an early grave, which I'd much prefer not to do. So, either we figure something out here, or we die of thirst out in the deserts. Not particularly fond of the second option.
She kind of nods and she says, I will not be responsible for your deaths. Heed my warning. Don't go down there." And she walks off, just kind of leaving you there for just a moment with your thoughts. The city is open for you to explore if you'd like any further. You could always follow her, or you could try and find out a little bit more about what's going on. So far, you guys have discovered that the black Icarus venom that's coming out of this pool has the smell of death to it, and there seems to be some coins that are stamped with snake heads that were inside the well.
It strikes me as odd, as one from this area. This has been plaguing this village for, 3 weeks now?
She said several weeks. She didn't really get to the bottom of it.
Okay,
Howl is
several
kind
weeks.
of in the middle of the desert. It's an oasis. People have to have come through here. So it is very odd that you hadn't heard news about this until you approached.
And I find it odd that she just, and as I'm looking from Jack to Ben, I'm saying, I find it odd that if she's a local, she wants us just to move on instead of asking for help. For it seems as though the issue's getting worse rather than better. So either she's in on it, or I have a feeling maybe something's over her. What do you think?
Well, I mean, some people are protective of foreigners. You know, they feel that their own problems are theirs to bear and that they need not trouble other people with them. Could be a poor case of that. Either way, not one to trust most people. Nonetheless, people quick to get me away from their town. So, if you have a hunch that something's up, then, you know, it's a hunch that we should keep in mind.
Surely we can persuade her that this would be in everybody's best interest to solve quickly.
Shall we pursue her?
Yes.
I think
All
if
right.
we're going to approach her, then maybe we should try to figure out a little bit more information first. If we're going to persuade her to allow us to help, we should come with some information, some knowledge that shows that we have some potential, at least, to succeed. She didn't seem particularly interested in the help of strangers, so maybe the help of informed strangers would at least be better.
Good point. So maybe we should go check the buildings.
So since you're looking to kind of gather some information around, Jeff, since you haven't gathered any information about the adventure, if you want, a charisma check would make sense here. The target number is 10. And if you have an item that boosts your charisma that you want to tell us about, go ahead, because loot's pretty important for ICRPG.
Yeah, I got nothing in the charisma department, so we're basically just looking at a 50-50 shot here. And it's a 7 on the die, which is going to bring me with a 7.
Okay. So, looking around the town, there's something you can't quite put your finger on. Lillet looked different than the other people that are here. Something about her, and you can't quite put your finger on it, but I think Ben, with his role earlier, is able to put his finger on it for you. It suddenly clicks in. The people in the village look dehydrated and a little emaciated. Lillet didn't. She looked like she hadn't been suffering ill effects of having several weeks without water. She looked very healthy and vibrant. All the color was in her face and things like that. And going through the village, you guys can hear people arguing back and forth about the blasted water, and they're pointing to the west. Just a quick glance in that direction, you can see there's this hill that rises up, and there's some old ruins of a temple that has fallen to age and time.
Should we check out those ruins?
Though I be small, I am very swift. I could quickly follow and as stealthily as possible. Because that's the direction that she went in, right?
She actually went to the east.
Oh, she went to the opposite direction.
Yes.
Okay.
If I said west earlier, I misspoke, but yes, she went to the east.
Okay. Well, if the locals seem to think that the problem is towards the ruins, then I would like to go and start scouting the ruins. And I can move very swiftly to get there and start doing that with my special winged boots that I have.
It beats wandering around this old town. Might be at least a little bit more interesting.
Okay. So from here, we'll just kind of go narrative for a little bit. So I'm taking the target number away real quick. If we decide that we have to roll anything, I'll give you guys a target when it becomes necessary. You guys travel up to the ruins, and there's these large stone pillars. They seem to be made of like this older white stone. It's not from this region. It was clearly drug out to the middle of the desert to form this once great temple. Looking through, you can see that the wall's been collapsed in, and it looks like a dangerous place if you were to get yourselves into a fight. Being who you are, Jack, you see a lot of opportunities for you to kind of create an archer's perch, and Ben, you kind of see some opportunities to take advantage of the surroundings, and what you were expecting to be kind of a surprise attack from bandits doesn't come. It's eerily quiet in here, and you find that there's a large pool in the center of the temple that has more of this black ichor inside of it, and there's a small whirling vortex in the center of what looks like clear, clean water.
Wow.
Well, we have
What's the
ourselves a
difference?
mystery.
Yes, we do. Are you going to take a sip? Ben, come on.
I'm going to roll a timer die real quick here. So
Uh-oh.
in 3 rounds, something is going to happen. So
Okay.
everything in ICRPG works in turns. So we're going to go basically in initiative around the clock here. So first up is going to be Sarek. You have the pool in front of you that has that core of a swirling vortex of clean water.
Mm-hmm. It's curious. He steps forward and he's trying to figure out what's going on. Maybe like a knowledge check to see if anything comes to mind as to what he can relate it back to.
Okay, so are you thinking like intelligence then?
Yeah, and I rolled a 2, so I don't. He's baffled at the moment. The sun's beating down on him, and he's just kind of like.
Yeah, and our target number is
Yeah.
actually going to increase to an 11 for this scene. Yeah, it's perplexing. You can't quite put your finger on it. There's things that are kind of drawing your attention around here, and so it's very hard for you to focus and just try and nail down what this temple might have once been. You see a lot of imagery in the broken mosaics on the floor of what looks like some sort of snake creature, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
I'm gonna grab a stone next to me then, and just reach over and drop it in. See what happens.
Okay, I'm gonna have you wait on that one because
Okay.
Ben is gonna come up next.
Okay. Ben is intrigued by this ruined temple and wants to try and figure out more. He wants to take a closer look at it and see if there's something else that we're missing here, maybe footprints or something that might lead a trail for us.
Okay, so absolutely, it sounds like a wisdom check against the target number there.
Okay. Wow. Bonus. That's a 19.
All right, so with a 19, you can see that there's footprints around inside the temple, inside the dust and dirt that's been kind of swept in here, but they're not like clean footprints. They seem to drag a lot. Like they stutter and like one drags, and then there's an open spot where it's been lifted and set back down, and then there's a drag. So whatever it looks like is, it may have been somebody who was wounded and had walked around a lot in here, or something else. It's kind of hard to exactly pin it down. As you're thinking about it, you kind of remember some of the more darker things that are associated with stuff like this. You're no stranger to some of the more dangerous elements of Alfheim, and your mind kind of wanders into the darker recesses, and you remember about zombies. They're basically humans with a constant limp when they walk. They would make patterns like this.
I'm gonna pull out my bow and kind of ready it, like I'm expecting danger.
Excellent. And Jack?
Yeah, Jack is kind of trying to do his best to find a spot in the room where he can kind of get a decent vantage point, even if it's just ground level, somewhere where he has a good view. And as he's kind of watching his companions, look at the pool and take a look at the ground, once he sees Ben draw his bow, he'll instinctively do the same, as if he had seen something. And Jack is much more apprehensive, more so than explorative at this moment. They've seen this weird font of clear water where that's not supposed to be the case, and all this weird stuff, people not really knowing what's going on. So he's more looking for danger at this point than he is looking for answers.
Excellent. I am taking down the timer. So the next little bit of warning that comes with the timer is from the pool as Sarek is investigating, it starts to kind of bubble and coalesce on the edges that are that dark ichor, and this purplish kind of mist starts boiling over the edges like a pot that's been on the stove too long. It's slowly kind of filling the area. It's very light at first, and it kind of chokes you back because it does have like the smell of rotting flesh to it, but it's not like noxious and poisonous to you, so no saves are required. Sarek, your turn.
And it's about that time that he leans over with a fairly good-sized rock, just larger than his fist, and drops it into the pool.
Okay.
As he kind of leans
drop
back.
It into?
How large is the pool again?
The pool's about 4 feet wide, and then the center piece for about 2 feet is where that clear water is. So it's just like the outside 2 feet, or that Icarus stuff.
Trying to drop it into the center of it, so kind of reaching out and dropping it in.
So when you drop it, you can hear it like plunk in the water like you'd expect it to, but the water there is very clear, and you can see it descend, and it descends quite a bit deeper than what this pool would lead you to believe. You think you can hear it make contact with something on the other side, but you're not entirely certain, because now you have that mist to kind of keep your mind on too.
Okay. Yeah, and I start stepping back, and I'm like, it looks like the center of that pool it's going down. Yeah, I'm very well spoken.
Okay. Ben?
Perhaps there's an underground cavern or something. Does anyone have rope and hook? I know I don't. Nope. Okay. Well, I have trapping gear on me. I've got snares and such. Maybe I can make some kind of system. I don't know. I'm concerned if we jump in, are we going to be able to get back out? Because it looks like that goes someplace. It is at least what Ben's thinking. So I probably pull out my my trapping gear, and I start sort of fiddling with my snares and stuff to try and pull them apart to create kind of a longer rope or something that I can fasten.
Okay, that sounds pretty clever. I think that's probably going to be your intelligence against the target number.
An 11, huh? 14.
Okay. With a 14, it's going to take time. It's going to take you about, let's give you a timer. It's going to take a while. You know that something is coming, and you feel like doing this is going to take too long.
Okay.
Mathematically, you've got 2 turns on what's happening, what I'm doing, and then 4 turns for you to build the rope and hook essentially from your snares.
Okay. Are we going to do an effort roll for that?
Yes. Or let's do that actually instead.
Okay.
We'll say it's 1 heart challenge because I kind of forgot about effort.
Okay. All right. So basic effort would be a D4 usually.
Yes.
So with this sort of impending mist and everything, and I get this, like you said, I have the sixth sense that this is going to take too long. Maybe I probably would take and try and, because we've entered like a temple area. Mm-hmm. Are there pinch points where things could come in at?
Yeah, looking around, it's like I said, there's a little bit of rubble everywhere. So if you guys say that you want to take cover from stuff coming in from the outside, there's definitely points for you to do that. I just wanted to do more theater of the mind, so I don't have a map available for you guys. If you tell me what you're looking for, we can play to that. There's not going to be any chandeliers in here because it's a fallen apart temple, but for the most part, you could find like big blocks of stone and like things like that to hide behind.
Right. So I'm actually thinking about trying to set up a little snare trap for my trapper gear.
Okay, excellent.
If there's like a doorway I can set it up in.
Yeah, the room that you're in, imagine like the pool is in the center, and it used to be like a 20-foot by 20-foot chamber, and there was clearly like a worship around this pool. The wall, from the way you guys came in, which is the main entrance, to the left of that would be knocked over, and that is actually exposed to the outside elements. The entrance you guys came from is also an easy way in, and then the 2 walls that would be directly in front of you when you enter and the one to the right, those are still standing, but the roof section is missing inside the corner. So there's 3 different points where things could come in here.
Yeah. Not the way that we came in. One of the side points, probably, I guess, where the roof is kind of collapsing.
Okay. Yeah.
Because then I can set it up there, and then I can try and take cover kind of nearby.
So if you do not want to take an effort roll on building your rope and hook, you can actually set the snare this turn, or you can do the rope and hook's effort roll.
I'm going to set the snare for the turn.
Okay. Excellent. So setting the snare is a pretty trivial thing for you. I'm not going to require a test for that one. And then, Jack, it's your turn.
Yeah, at this point, Jack's just becoming more wary, even more so after seeing this kind of purple mist beginning to spill out. So I'm just going to try to find a point of cover, maybe perhaps a section of collapsed roof or wall, somewhere where he can see, ideally both the pool and the collapsed wall outside, so that if anything were to either come up out of the pool or through the collapsed wall to the left from entry, he would be able to spot it while still kind of having somewhere he can duck behind.
Okay, yeah, there's definitely like a toppled over pillar that you get behind, and I imagine there's like this little break in the pillar where like the bottom part's separated from the top part, and it kind of provides a nice little arrow crevice for you to stick the bow around and be able to get your full cover. So I'm going to take down my thing here. The next sign that you see that trouble is imminent is you can hear the sand around the building start shifting, and it sounds like a strong wind is blowing in, but this mist continues to thicken inside here. It's almost becoming like vomit-inducing. Not quite enough to make you make saves yet, but that is coming, and you can tell that the smell of death is just filling this room, and that you guys have to come up with something quick, or else it's just going to get worse. Sarek, it is your turn.
That's not ominous. All right, so Sadiq is scanning the possibilities here and considering what's ahead. He takes a running jump and tries to jump into the center of the pool.
Nice.
Yeah, and like you take the jump in, and is it like a pencil dive, or you just cannonball straight into this thing?
Trying to cannonball into it.
Okay. It's like Sarek tucks himself in, and as soon as your butt hits the water, because it's the first thing going in, there's this glimmering light that kind of shows around Sarek as he just gets sucked down into this thing. We will get back to what happens to you in a second.
Okay.
Ben, you just saw him get flushed.
Ben shakes his head and he goes, "Man, this is just like the last time." And he uses his wing boots to run up. He grabs the snare, and then he uses his second move from the winged boots to run and also jump into the pool, like head on.
Okay, excellent. Same thing happens. Shimmering light, and Ben is gone down the drain here. Jack, you're up and alone. The smell of death fills the air.
I love Jeff's eyes as Ben jumped in. He's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, and, like I imagine like Jack's trying to like pull up like cloth from his shirt or like a scarf or like something that they would wrap just to try to like cover the stench, but it's no use. Like it's just so overbearing and powerful that there's nothing he can do. And he just like watches in horror as his teammates just dive into the pool. And kind of looks out like to the shifting sand outside from the collapsed wall, and then like in the pool where his teammates just jumped in, and like is clearly indecisive for a moment, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And he just, well, if my companions are going to jump to their death, the least I can do is join them. And he will very apprehensively leap into the pool.
And as you're leaping into the pool, you can finally start to see the first thing that was approaching you inside this fog as it gets thicker. There's this creature that kind of looks like a mummified corpse shambling its way into the room that you were just exiting. The light encompasses you, and you find yourself gone. There's this arcane rune on the floor that suspiciously looks like the Index Card RPG logo there. Inside the room where you guys are, you find yourselves inside a larger cavern, and you've teleported us into this magic circle. And inside this hall, you can see that there's an endless spiral staircase just at the end. It's long and narrow, and it has kind of these different features engraved into the sides. There's these snakehead statues, and manacled to each one of these four massive statues is a corpse. Looking around the room, there is two doors, but both are slammed shut right now. You can't see any clear way to open them because they don't have any like knobs or anything like that on there. From kind of looking around, Sarek was the first one to get in here. The doors look like they slide up, but you're not sure what mechanism controls them just yet.
Okay, so as I landed, kind of like half bewildered, half excited, adrenaline pumping, he crouches and draws his longsword, and he sees this manacled what appears to be humanoid, and cautiously approaches, inspecting it.
Okay, so this room, as you're looking around, there's kind of this long gangplank, and there's the four statues, two closest to you and then two a little further up. They are all facing towards one point in the center of this bridge, and you can smell that that death smell that seems to be filling the air coming up from the other sides of the bridge. There's no railings here, and it is kind of narrow, but once you leave kind of the protection of this magic circle that's on here, you pretty much are on that path to on that gangplank, and that's when Ben snaps right into existence right behind you.
Yeah, they definitely aren't following OSHA guidelines.
Okay. So I arrive and I see this scene, and I will go ahead and start moving forward and taking point as the scout role that I usually take in the party, and I do this as stealthily as possible, crouching down my little halfling ways, and start moving forward.
Absolutely. Go ahead and roll a wisdom for scouting.
Okay.
Target numbers remaining as 11 for now.
Okay. 17.
All right, with the 17, you notice that the snakeheads feature a bowl underneath each of their mouths that's stained blackish red. And as you kind of make your way down this gangplank, you see that there's a stone that is offset from the others. And if you were a betting man, that's probably a trap.
Okay.
And with that realization, Jack shimmers into existence again right behind you guys. The same effect.
Yeah.
And Jack just looks over to his companions. Just, are you guys crazy? Are you trying to get us killed?
Yes, and then no.
I do like a hand signal back to say there's a trap.
And then, with that so very straightforward answer from Sarik, just, well, whatever. Now that we're here, might as well take a look around. You said there were 2 closed doors in the vicinity, right?
Yeah, there's one behind the room where you guys came from, and then one across the bridge from where you are.
Yeah, he would go backwards to the nearest one, the one that's kind of in the room behind where they just appeared. And what type of doors are these? Are these
It's a large
stone or?
Yeah, it's a large stone door, and it's that same white stone that the temple was actually made out of. You can see that there are some kind of like a forgotten text on this doorway. A better inspection will allow you to decipher the script. That would be an intelligence check against the target number if you're curious.
Yeah, I think I will give that a go.
Okay.
And
The
that
script
is
has 1
59
heart.
on the die, so that's 16.
Perfect. The script has 1 heart, so you do need to roll effort. Since you're deciphering this script, it's basic unless you have something that can turn it into something else.
I do not. So basic effort.
So D4.
That is a 2 on the die.
Okay. So you begin kind of working your way through the script here, and it's hard to make out exactly what it says. You can tell that this is something, if read aloud, it would allow you to open the door. However, you will take 1 point of damage from reading this profane script that is on the door. Next up, Sarek.
Sardik, realizing that Ben has his hands on that, or he's probably well versed in disarming that trap, he begins making his way over to Jack and shoulders his pack. And in his pack, he begins gathering up his smithing tool, which is a hammer and like a chisel.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at Jack and I just say, well, it's worth a try. Kind of like we could wedge it in there and start trying to push the door open.
Okay.
Yeah, and sorry, real quick, did you say that did I take the damage already? Did I already take 1 point of damage, or is it only if I actually read it out loud?
You took it for trying to decipher it.
Okay.
But
Just
you're
wanted to
2
make sure.
points out of the total 10 that it will take to break the door's arcane lock, essentially.
Yeah. And Jack would just look back to Sarik and say, There's something strange about this door. I don't think mundane tools will open it. Something about this script. I can't quite make it out. It hurts my mind to even read it, but I think it offers some sort of key, at least as far as I did get.
Interesting. So, I guess we have to. I mean, and I hate to speak in meta terms. It sounds like we need to read the script and break it down to. But we can't do that because we just keep wearing ourselves down. All right, so he's kind of puzzling through because he sees that Jack looks visibly worn from what just happened. All right, maybe we need to look further into the room that we're already in for the answers. So he begins going back the other way to look at Ben and see if possibly disarming that trap is going to make any headway.
Okay. Ben, you've gotten a better look at this trap here. Kind of looking it over, it's an ancient trap. You've seen these sorts of things before, but its machinations inside of it is pretty advanced. It doesn't take too long before you start to remember some of like the beginnings of your learnings when you started doing delving, to remember about the once serpentine people that ruled all of Alfheim. If you had to venture a guess, this trap is probably either made from their designs or possibly made by one of them.
Oh no, a trap made by the old people. I kind of gingerly take a step back and I put my bow back and I pull out my long staff that I have, and I start pushing on the plate to see what happens from like a distance with my staff.
As you push at the plate, give me a dex save against the target number.
All right. Oh no. I rolled a 4 and I have 4 dex, so 8.
Okay. So with a total of 8, unfortunately, it does fall shy of the target number of 11. You press a little too hard with the staff, and like it's a pressure plate, and you've figured that out already. But the plate sinks in, like you were just kind of testing it to see how springy this plate was, and the whole thing just right into place.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, that kind of cloud that was up there inside the temple before, you can see it start to permeate out of the mouths of these 4 snake totems inside here, and it kind of gouts out in a spray at first, which is going to be, let me do some dice here real quick.
Oh, what did you do, Ben?
Oh, lads, this is going to be bad.
11 points of poison damage.
11?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that you've seen the trap
right.
in action, you know that there's a way to stop it now that it's going, which would be to take out each one of these totems. But it will take time and some assistance to get it done quickly.
Okay. Well, so I just took 11 points is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So it knocks me unconscious because, I mean, we only start with 10 hit points. So, yeah. So Ben, like...
It's pretty vile.
Falls over.
Yeah, and
it takes a whiff.
I think Ben, like, hits the ground, and the two of you are on the other side. In fact, just for the fun of it, I'm going to say that the gas didn't make it to the two of you, so don't worry about the 11 this time around. I think Ben got the brunt of that gout. You see Ben kind of hit the ground, and his body teeters on the edge of this catwalk-like bridge there, which is to say that now he is in the dying rules, which I believe was a D6 for the rounds, right?
Yeah. So on the start, when it comes back around, I'll roll a d6.
Okay.
And then somebody has to basically touch me and say, I'm stabilizing you before that happens.
Or you get a 20 on a D20 roll, right?
Yeah, to wake me up. Or I mean, different DMs do it differently. I mean, if somebody puts food in my mouth from my backpack or something, that might get me hit point back. It's kind of up to you how you want to do that.
Excellent. So we're going to go back into the turn rounds here because we loosened up for a minute there. Jack, you would be next up. You see Ben just like thump on the side of the catwalk, and like I said, he's kind of like one good turn and he's gonna fall off that thing.
Yeah, so as Jack sees this Ichor spray go out and just immediately knock Ben out, his eyes go wide, his mouth drops. He looks back at the door behind him that he had been trying to work out, and then back over to Ben and just and he's going to try to take a big deep breath in, just and hold his breath and try to run and drag Ben out of this poison gas.
Okay. I'll take that as you reviving him and getting him out of the way at the same time. The gas will start to spread throughout the room. Right now it's near the statues using kind of the range increments, and then it will go out to like the mid distance, and then once it reaches the far, it's going to cover the whole room. So there will be damage unless you guys take care of the totems. Ben, you kind of come around, and I imagine that Ben coming around is like, totems, destroy the totems.
Yeah, get him between the eyes.
All right, Sarik, you're next up.
How tall are the totems?
They're not very far off of the bridgeway. You would just have to go into that poison cloud and try and disable the totem either by hitting it with a weapon or trying to take it apart manually.
What about a running leap to grab onto the head?
Yeah, you definitely could.
That's definitely otherwise death.
Yeah, slipping and falling means falling down into wherever the bottom of this place is.
All right, so Sadiq is calculating, looking at him, and he knows time is of the essence. So he grabs his hammer, his durable, trusty hammer, takes a deep breath, and just charges over and just starts hammering at the base of this totem. We'll pick one of 4. And he's hitting it with strength, so 13 plus 2, 15.
That succeeds. Go ahead and give me some effort. It's a weapon die unless your hammer happens to be magic.
Weapon die is 6, and I get a +1 because I'm commander or human. I can't remember which one. So 7 total.
All right. So 7, you take a huge whack out of this thing, and like the way you swing kind of like knocks the jaw up a little, and it's almost closed. You can see now that you're close to the totem that there's these bowls that I mentioned earlier. They have this blackish red staining on them. Sarek, as a veteran of the battlefield, you recognize that as blood inside the bowl. It's been dried out.
But it doesn't seem to be activating in any way?
No, it looks like it's been dried and been there for a long time. But you can clearly tell that bowl has been filled with blood in the past.
Okay, and considering movement of running in there and then moving back, how far is that? A banana?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've already expended movement then.
Yep.
Okay, he is just still doing all right. I would imagine his constitution isn't too shabby, so maybe another round of holding his breath, and
yeah,
I'll leave that up to you.
You're able to move back. Like I said, the gas is going to expand in the next round here. But
Okay.
Next is going to be Ben. You are currently sitting at 1 hit point, sir. What would you like to do? You have a door close to you that you could try and do something about.
Well, I mean, I was actually thinking about taking my bow and try and finish the work that he was doing and see if I
Absolutely.
could shoot an arrow at and could knock that jaw closed completely. And I have pretty high dex, so it's like a good idea. So 15.
15 succeeds. Go ahead and do some effort.
Okay. 10.
All right. So with a 10, you are able to close out the mouth, and the gas kind of like creeps out the corners of his mouth as it stops, and there's only 3 snake mouths open at this point. Next is going to be Jack.
Yeah, so as this poison gas is flooding the room, Jack kind of seems to get a little panicky. He's breathing heavier after he's just pulled the weight of Ben's body across this room. And I'm actually going to say he's probably going to, in this moment of, oh crap, what do I do, turn back to the door that he was trying to decipher. And he's just like, no, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. And is just going to, like, in a probably not very good state for research, going to try to continue deciphering the door.
Okay.
All right, and that is going to be 14.
A 14 will succeed. Give me some effort.
Ooh, and that is 3 effort.
All right.
And do I take another point of damage as well?
You do take 1 point of damage. I think the only one who's in the band to be affected this time around as the gas kind of expands out is going to be Sarik. Just because you weren't able to open up the full distance out. That will be 8 points of damage.
Okay, so back to the top. He's at this point he's kind of coughing in and hacking another breath, and he just swings again at this statue, trying to smash it again. Did we smash one of them?
Yes.
Okay.
And that stopped it. The gas is much thinner. That's the best narrative clue I can give you that this is working.
All right. So I'm going to move over to the next one, and for a total of a 9 to hit. So
unfortunately, that's not gonna be enough. It's a statue though, so I imagine that you hit it, and it just wasn't a good enough strike. Like, it was a glancing blow. It being kind of a snake head totem, like you probably caught one of the curved surfaces, and your hammer slid as it made contact.
Yeah, and he considers for a minute to call out to Jack a moment rather, and but then he realizes, don't waste the breath, and tries to move back out of the cloud, because he's going to be taking a dirt nap in a moment if that's the case.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're able to fall back a little bit, but you know that if the cloud continues the way it is, you're all going to be getting the gas soon. Next up is Ben.
Open the door, stop the snake.
There's also the bowls that you haven't investigated.
Yeah. I am. You know, these are the old people, and I bet they often required blood sacrifices. So I want to try something really odd. I want to take one of my arrow shafts and kind of cut my arm slightly with it and get a little blood on it, and shoot it at one of the bowls for the snakes that's still open to see if I can put blood into the bowl.
Okay, you absolutely can. It has to be basically a D4 worth of hit points for the blood sacrifice. If you'd like to go ahead and roll that for yourself, and then we'll say that you
that's gonna
put the blood
put me
in.
under again, since I only have a hit point.
Yep, that's true. So it's 1. Yay.
4. So I get the blood on the arrow, and then like.
I think you're gonna fire it though, because I want it to be conveyed that this works to stop the statue, and it's like you with your last bit of strength before you go unconscious again, you release the shaft, and then like your character slumps over, the arrow pegs the statue like just above the bowl, and there's this like big thick globule of blood that falls off the shaft into the bowl. The bowl lights up with these red arcane runes, and a few more drops hit the bowl. And once these 4 drops hit the bowl, the energy from the bowl kind of transfers into the whole totem, and the whole totem seems lined up with these snake hieroglyphics, and that totem shuts down and it stops spewing poisonous fumes. So you have 2 left. Next up is Jack, who's been fervently working on the door. Ben just went unconscious near you again.
Yeah, I imagine as he hears the thud of Ben going unconscious, he turns around, just like, what the hell? Like, and like he sees like this cut along his arm, and like looks like up where he heard the bow shot, seeing one of the statues now stopped as a result. He's gonna bend down, and for a moment it looks as if he's trying to help Ben. Then he pulls an arrow out of his quiver, and he's gonna use the arrow and basically get more blood from Ben's wound to fire another arrow of his own into the next bull.
I'm gonna say it's a D6 -1 for this move here. When it comes time for us to see how many rounds you last.
All right. So do you need a attack roll for me on that, or no?
Yes, there will be an attack roll. I wanted the first one to basically succeed, so you guys understood the concept of the room here.
All right, and that is going to be a modified 20.
Perfect. You get to actually... Oh, modified 20. Yes.
Modified.
So...
Oh, I do have a quick...
Yeah, go ahead.
So the starter bonus for the archer is if you roll a 15 or higher on a shot, you can fire again.
Yes.
So can I use that to try to shoot another? Well, I would need to get more blood on the second arrow, which I would feel. I don't know if I want to stab Ben any more than I already have.
I was gonna say you could use your own blood, greedy.
So, yeah. So if I can do all of that still in one action, I think you would take out a second arrow.
I think so. I think it's one of those
Nick
like
himself,
legless moves that you pull the arrow out, you slash your wrist, and line it up and shoot at the same time.
Yeah. But the pain from the cut was a little bit more than he was expecting, and it actually messes up his grip on his bow, as I only got a 5 total on the second shot. So I'll still take some damage.
The arrow goes sailing to the backside of the chamber that you're in, bouncing off of the rocks. You can hear it splinter against the stone back there. You also take a D4 of damage from bloodletting.
Yeah, and that's actually perfect because I rolled a 4 on the die. So I imagine he goes to like barely nick himself, but he accidentally stabs himself pretty good, and it messes up his grip.
I'm just gonna remove all the monsters from the rest of this place. You guys seem to be handling it pretty well. All right. Next up, the gas expands out. There are 2 active mouths right now, so 2 points of damage for everybody.
Shouldn't there be 1?
Oh, sorry, 1 active mouth, so 1 point of damage, because I rolled snake eyes on my damage dice here. Sarek, you've kind of witnessed what's been going on here. There's 1 statue that's left. It is your turn.
Yeah, he's kind of wide-eyed just watching what happened, and he makes a note to himself that he's probably not going to tell Ben what happened while he was knocked out. But he's not going to take more blood to get this last one, and he goes in and he charges the last statue again because he's not going to give it any blood, and he is going to swing his hammer at it. And that is a total of a 12.
All right. With a 12, you will succeed. Go ahead and give me some effort.
So that is a total of 4 points of damage.
All right, excellent. Another sound swing as the mouth begins to shut underneath your hammer's weight, but the mouth is still spewing forth this noxious gas. Next up is Ben for your death roll in your first D20. And just as a reminder, it is a D6 -1 because of your kindly adventuring friend.
2.
I think you might be muted.
Oh,
No, he said 2. I
No,
think.
I can hear him. Yeah, it's a little quiet, but I
Can you hear me?
heard you. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry?
Yeah.
You're coming across a little quiet though.
technical problems. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I rolled a 2 on my death saving throw.
All right. So was that with the modifier or before the modifier?
So 1. So 1
Okay.
with the modifier.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so
Ben
one
looks
round I'll-
real bad.
Yeah. Wait. And then, and I rolled a 14 on my check, so I don't miraculously get back up.
Jack, you're next up.
So, like Jack, he's like got another arrow like ready in the quiver, ready in his hand, like seeing the statue that Sarek has just hit. And I imagine like he even like puts the arrow like up against the string and just like instinctively looks down to Ben and just sees
blood
just
everywhere.
blood just pouring from his arm. Like there's no way there should be that much blood from a little arrow slap.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Let's see if we get him back here in a second. Occasionally Jeff will get a lag. There you are, Jeff.
Hello?
Yep.
Am I good now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So weird. I can hear you guys perfectly fine when that happens, but like you guys don't get anything from me. It's like, what the heck?
Yep.
Anyways, so yeah, he sees all this blood coming from Ben's arm, and just kind of continuing to panic. He'll actually just drop the arrow and bow onto the ground, and just like frantically tear a portion of like a shirt or a cloak or something off, and try to like tie up the arm so it stops bleeding.
Excellent. That'll count as an aid, so he will be back to 1 hit point and conscious on his next turn. Sarek, you've got a statue that's been dented, and one ally who is being tended to at the moment.
All right, and he, becoming desperate, he holds his hand and takes a big overhand swing at it for a total of a 12 again. So that would be 5 points of damage.
Okay, that's enough to finish it off. With
So-
a loud clang, like the head actually just cants sideways and crumples underneath the hammer. There's like the small puff of this poisonous gas as it just kind of like sputters out, and it's no longer able to spew forth. A few moments later, after that ringing has finished inside the cavern, it's very quiet in here finally.
And breathing heavily, Sadiq walks back to his companions and takes down to a knee and checks Ben as well, and seeing that Jack is working on him, says,
Once you make it back over there, it's almost like 30 seconds after the fight is over. It feels like time has been way too long. You finally hear as both doors open up. The door you were working on, Jack, opens up into a room with a small chest, and then the one on the far side opens up into a staircase that goes down. It's that staircase that you were able to see from the bridge that spirals.
Okay. So, is it Jack's turn or my turn?
Let's go with Ben.
Okay. So Ben is going to take a moment coming back to his consciousness and seeing his little ragtag's covered in blood. He's like, ah! And he's going to take a moment to do a rest con check, see if he can get back a hit point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So
The target number has decreased to 10, by the way, because you guys were able to kind of get things to a calmer moment.
that's good because I actually rolled a 10. I was about to say I didn't make it.
Okay.
Okay.
So you kind of catch your breath and you're able to recuperate.
Yeah.
Jack, you're next up.
Seeing Ben stable and kind of tending to his own wounds, Jack will pick his bow back up and put the arrow back in the quiver that he had dropped onto the ground moments earlier. And seeing the door raise and seeing this chest on the other room, his curiosity peaked as the initial panic from the previous incident begins to settle back down. He's going to walk through the door and check the box and see if he can find any reason that he would believe it might be trapped or anything like that.
Yeah, you open the box and you can find these what kind of look like eggs inside there. There's 3 of them, but they're kind of like a soft, leathery style of egg. These are spider bites, is what they're called. It's a healing food. You recognize them. They're basically the eggs of giant spiders that have been prepared as food. They heal quite a bit, but you have to live with the fact that you're eating spider babies, essentially.
All right, and then if I have any turn left from that, Jack is not going to pay too much mind to the moral aspect of this question, and just pick all 3 of them out of the box, take one, and begin to chew on it himself, and then just look over to the other 2. Hey, found some food.
Okay. If you choose to eat it, it's going to be 2d6 hit points.
I am choosing to eat it. All right, and that's going to be 9 HP back, which will just put me straight back to my max 10. And he turns around to the other 2, offering it towards them if they choose to do so.
Well, that's fortuitous. And Sadiq kind of helps Ben up and starts walking over toward and kind of crinkles his nose and says, well, it is what it is. And he puts it in his mouth and eats it. Nine hit points total. Not too bad.
Excellent.
What do you think, Ben? Are you going to eat the delicacy?
Oh, Ben looks at those and goes, "Oh, my favorite, baby spiders."
I would like you all to take a moment to look at your class as well, because you're going to be rewarded with a milestone advancement.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
For solving the room. Basically, as you guys recuperate and kind of rest for a little bit, you'll be able to select out a milestone reward from your character sheet. Going through kind of the rubble of this room, you can tell me what you found as your milestone reward, but I'm giving you guys the power to choose which one you want.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I gained back 9 hit points, so I'm back to 10.
Yep. And if you want to match the snake motif of the temple, feel free in your description of the item.
Okay. So as Ben is looking around, I think he finds like a tablet sort of shoved behind the chest, and it's covered in like weird snake glyphs and runes, and he doesn't understand it at all. But as soon as he touches it, his mind it feels a surge of power, and he learns a wisdom power called True Sight, which reveals all things hidden with a wisdom attempt.
Excellent. And as you kind of go to like tell people, hey, I found this really cool, and it crumbles in your hands, becoming useless to anyone else.
Yeah. I just learned Kung Fu.
Yeah, and as Jack is kind of going around this room as well, he sees what must be like a long dead corpse. It's basically just bones and like mostly deteriorated rags on them. But alongside this person on the ground was barely held together, but still together quiver. And as he picks it up to take a look at it, he pulls out some of the arrows, and the arrows have this like weird kind of shape to it, almost like a snake fang would have. But as he kind of holds these arrows in, he can clearly sense that there's some sort of power to them. So that's just a quiver of 20 magic arrows is my first milestone.
Excellent. And for Sarik?
Yeah, and as Sarik is, he's often recalled other commanders being able to do this on the battlefield. They've been able to rally their allies and get them moving or help them along the way, or even intimidate their enemies. And similarly, he seems to have turned that corner or something, figured it out, the Titan's battle cry, as he is reading one of the texts as well, and hopes that it'll be able to help us in the future. So he'll be able to grant +3 to allies or -3 to enemies through a battle cry, wisdom. So
excellent. And I think from there, we kind of have like the camera pan back and it fades, and then the next scene that we see, you guys have traversed down that spiral staircase already, and you've entered into what you have referred to as the Lapis maze. I imagine that you're all kind of crouched behind this stone and looking across this maze work. And the reason you guys are calling it a maze work is because there is a ton of these undead shamblers that are inside the room. Too many to count. They are all over the place, and after a few moments you can kind of see that there's something strange to them. There's too many to be able to fight past, but through kind of scouting ahead, Ben has determined that there's a vortex in the center of this room. Yeah, that's where we'll leave it for now. So, Sarik, you want to lead us off?
okay, so the next room we're looking at, there's a vortex, so we need to get to the vortex, is what it looks like.
And sorry, there's one other thing that you guys notice immediately. There are 4 kind of green pillars that rise up out of this water. They lead to the snakeheads you guys sealed. You can clearly make that connection.
Okay, and the shamblers don't seem to be moving very quickly, right?
No, they seem to be kind of wandering about. They don't seem to be paying attention to too much. However, they are moving around, and after a little bit of time, you think that there may be a pattern to their movements. You'd have to investigate further to really nail down if there is one, and if you can use it.
Okay, time is of the essence always. So, Sarik, not being one to wait, begins bounding forward toward the the portal in the center of the room.
Okay, fair warning. Ben has pretty much given you guys that that there's too many to fight at this point. So do you want to take that back, or do you want to just bound in?
Yeah.
Because I did mention that earlier.
Yeah, and I thought that we needed to get to the center of the room, so that's what I was thinking of doing.
Totally fine. So you bound over to the center of the room. I thought you were
Well,
charging in to fight. That's what I was confused about.
No, I thought that we needed to get to the center of the room. So I confirmed with Ben then, that's the intention. We need to get to the center of the room.
You can also see a door on the far side, by the way.
Too many of them to fight. Now we could try sneaking around or watching for a pattern and then move around to the outside to the other door.
Yeah.
Seems like taking a couple seconds to scout for a pattern is going to be safer than charging in blindly and hoping they don't rip us apart.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm going to hold my action and monitor and watch.
You don't actually have to hold it if you want to. You could roll like a wisdom check to perceive what's inside the room to see if you can see that pattern.
I'll do that.
The target number in this room is 10.
So I got an 18.
Okay. With that, you kind of look into the deep, kind of murky water here. It's only really about a foot deep, but it's very dark, like that of water that was pulled up from the well. And you can see these lines along the floor that are lapis in color, which is where you guys were kind of calling it the lapis maze, because you could see that there was a lot of like lapis color to the room. But this is actually engraved into the stonework underneath the water. Oh, looks like Jeff fell off. We'll get him back here in a minute. So engraved into the floor, that's what the shamblers seem to be following, is these patterns that are on the floor. Next up is Ben. Oh shoot, my overlay.
Oh. So Ben. So we already know kind of the pattern that's there.
Right.
So Ben is going to use his sort of double move to kind of stealthily start moving through the pattern to avoid the shamblers, to get to the center. And then for his action, he wants to use his new true sight power to try and just get everything that he can about the room.
So you guys can do a combined dex effort to stealth across together as a group if you'd like, now that you kind of have a better idea of the room. And yeah, we can totally stop and let you use true sight as well.
Okay.
So do you want to lead that off as far as the combined effort for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So start with a dex check, right?
Yep. Target number is still 10.
Okay, 22.
All right. So with a 22, that is a very easy way to blow that out of the water. Let's get some effort on that one.
Okay. All right. And is this going to be basic?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So, 2.
All right. So with that, you guys begin to make it, and you're about 2/10 of the way you need to sneak across, conveniently. I really like that hearts are 10. It makes things so much easier.
Yeah, the math is beautiful.
Yeah.
Or lack of, I should say.
So next up is going to be Jack. You guys have started kind of moving across, and you're basically kind of like ducking behind pillars and knocked over pieces of stone and hiding from these shamblers as they begin to make their pass. Jack, would you like to lead another dex check or do something else?
I will go ahead and continue it on.
Okay.
That is a 12 on the die, so 15 total for
Excellent.
2 effort.
All right, so you are about halfway. Sarek, it is your turn. I'm going to move a timer forward real quick here.
Okay. And Sadiq continues with the process of the combined dex check to move forward.
Okay.
And that is a total of a 13.
13 will succeed.
Wow.
And the effort on this one, since it's his basic work, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, that is a total of a 3.
Okay. So you are 7 HP of this heart gone. Ben, you've gone past the vortex. You guys have had to kind of usher yourselves past it a little bit, but you're still fairly close to it if you want to use your wisdom power, or you can continue to press on. You guys didn't get too close to the vortex, but the shamblers don't seem to be going too close to it either.
Yeah. So at the start of my turn, I want to do the true sight power.
Okay.
So 19.
Excellent. So what does that look like when you activate the power?
It's gonna sound terrible. I almost imagine like the World of Warcraft effect, where like a priest uses like the sight ahead of time, so you see like my eyes are just like kind of
Okay.
glow a little bit discreetly. Like a natural shimmer comes into my eyes.
Perfect. And that lets you determine if anything is unusual or arcane, right?
It just says reveals all hidden.
All hidden. Okay.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be anything hidden in the vortex, but a little further out on kind of like a detour of the way you guys are going, there seems to be something hidden over there. After a few moments of kind of looking, it's like eagle vision, like you've zoomed in a little bit, and you can see the glowing outline of what looks like a treasure box.
Ah, interesting. Okay. And then so move the party forward now with the dex check, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I rolled a 1 plus 4.
All right then. You begin moving, and there's a spot in the water that's a little deeper than you suspected. And Ben, being one of the short folk of the world, submerges his face for a moment, and he splashes back up, freaking out. And that noise instantly draws the attention of one of the nearby shamblers, and it starts moving away from its pattern to investigate. Jack, you do have an opportunity to move against this thing before it gets close to you if you want. Jack, you're muted.
Indeed, I am. So yeah, Jack, not quite sure whether or not he should try to take this one down and hope that it doesn't bring attention, or like continue the path and hope they can outmaneuver it.
Outmaneuvering it would be a hard task, which means that the target number is going to go up by 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think in this point, anyways, whether or not it would be a better idea, I think Jack's kind of that same panic that he felt earlier kind of sets back in, and he sees it coming, and the first instinct is like, we just need to get this thing down. So he pulls out one of those snake fang arrows that he had just picked up in the room prior, knocking it into his bow, and he's just going to let it loose and hope that wasn't a terrible idea.
Excellent. Go ahead and roll an attack.
All right, and that is going to be, again, a modified 20.
Excellent.
17 on the die. And that is going to be with a magic test, 6 total damage effort for the magic arrow.
The arrow sinks in, and there's this spider web of like black that comes from the wound and goes across all of these bandages, and you can see that as it does, it starts to break apart and turn into just kind of like this cloud of dust and bandages that sink into the water underneath. One other shambler just kind of like stops and hesitates for a moment, but then continues moving on. You were able to prevent them all from turning on you guys. I'm advancing my clock forward and starting a new clock. All right, next up is Sarek.
All right, Sadiq is continuing forward with the let's see. We only had 3 points left, right?
Correct. If you want to go after the box that Ben found, if he has decided to share that with you, you need 2 more points to do that.
Yeah, I mean, in doing that, are we moving together? You said pretty much. Are we close
Yes.
enough together? So, a Titan's battle cry can also be a Titan's whisper, right?
You know what? Sure. Yeah.
All right. So I encourage my friends by saying, "We're almost there, just across there. Let me check this box, though." So I'm gonna, I guess, stealth over and check the box, or is that wisdom?
Yeah, it's still going to be a dex.
Okay. And that is a total of 11, just barely.
That will succeed. Give me some effort.
All right, total of 2.
All right, so a total of 2. You will find a small box inside there. It is small enough for you to be able to take out with you. It looks like it may be like a weapon case. You're not entirely certain. You could either open it now or you could take it with you out of this room. You can tell, though, that the Shamblers are becoming more aware of things inside here if you decide to stay.
Yeah, I'm going to shove it in my pack and continue moving on.
Okay. And what was your effort for the stealth there?
Dos.
2. Okay, excellent. You guys are 1 roll away, and Ben is up.
Okay. Ben is gonna
Well,
continue
I should
with
say
the.
maybe 1 roll away.
Well, yeah, we'll see. So doing the dex check with the combined movement.
Yep.
22 again. Hooray.
Excellent. With a 22, you are able to exceed. So go ahead and give me some effort.
Okay, 4.
All right. A 4 will clear you guys of this room. You guys find yourselves in a staircase that descends down, and a tool and a small chest with you, roughly the size of a weapon.
And so I'm going to plop that open and take a look to see prise it open to see what it contains.
Okay. This is a pretty easy chest to open. It's got like an old rusted lock. You don't even have to strike it. You just kind of like jerk it once and the whole lock comes undone. As you do that, like the sound carries a little bit and you can hear the Shamblers start to kind of move closer towards the sound of you opening the lock, but a few moments later they seem disinterested. But you do learn that it seems that loud noises attract them.
Okay.
A moment later you open it up and there is a gimbal inside. This is the Thieves' Gimbal. It is an item. Intelligence of 14 with 1 heart to learn how to use, but it will provide a +3 attempt and double effort when opening chests.
And I look over at the little bin. I think that you're the perfect one for this.
All right.
So I present him the gimbal and set the box down, so it doesn't clatter, and proceed down the stairs.
And Jack, along your way, you were able to find a bit of hardtack. It is healing food. It does 1d4 hit points. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Moldy buns. It heals 5 hit points and tastes awful.
Perfect.
Yep, it's in the book. You guys apparently just get bad food this whole adventure.
Fair enough. I'll take it.
All right, so from there, let me just do this real quick.
I'll be right back, Chris. Gonna hit the restroom.
That's fine. In fact, actually, let's go ahead and do our 5-minute break because you guys are making pretty good time through here. I guess Index Card RPG goes a little faster than I was anticipating. So that's a good thing to take away as new GM because I was planning for 4 hours and I think you guys are going to do it in like 3. So let's go ahead and do our break here. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys are. I know it's a little rough because I'm new at it and everything, but hopefully it's been fun.
Oh, doing great.
All right, guys, I'm going to switch us over and mute us for the break. For everybody who has tuned in, I've seen that we've had quite a few different viewers pop in and out throughout the whole thing. Thanks for tuning in. We are playing Index Card RPG by Runehammer Games. If you guys are looking for a copy of it, it is available currently on Drive-Thru RPG. I think it's like number 3 currently. It was number 1 for several weeks in a row, but it's still pretty popular there. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you in about 5 minutes.
Awesome.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
All right, so we're back from the break here. Let me go ahead and clear my target number, put in the new one for the next room, and clear out this shambler. So just to be clear with everybody, target number is going to be 12 from this point forward. And you guys enter a... after coming out of the staircase at the bottom, there's this long alleyway that is full of water, and Lillet is here. She's got some like scars on her and some black spots of like where this ichor has kind of stained on her skin, and her sword seems chipped and kind of broken now, and she seems to be taking a moment of rest here as you approach. She goes on guard for a second and then sees that you're human and alive, so she eases her guard after a few moments.
Looks like we need some help. We could use your help.
Yes, of course. It was a little bit more than I anticipated, unfortunately. There's a temple further ahead. She kind of like leans her head towards the direction of where this hallway empties out. The Great Pyramid, there's 5 floating crystals, 4 on pillars around it on each predominant side of the temple, and then 1 at the top of the pyramid base. But there's also these small slime creatures inside there. Her name is Lillet, Liette. She kind of like breathes for a second. She says, some sort of noise fills the air. It makes it hard to concentrate. And if you guys kind of let it be quiet for a moment, you can hear what she's talking about. It's this deep hum that's coming from that direction. It's very faint from where you are, but you can hear it. It must be much louder in there.
Cool. I reach for my supply pack, and I pull some of the food out of my supply pack, and I offer it to her.
She graciously accepts it, and she begins kind of chewing on the food that you have. After a few moments, she kind of readies herself, and she looks to all of you, and she says, when you're ready, I suppose.
Before we go, what are we getting ourselves into? You said it was hard to concentrate. Concentrate on what?
Anything. I had trouble just moving around.
Sounds like we need to do something to block the sound. And I start like ripping little bits of my patchwork stuff to make little earplugs.
Okay.
Do you want to scout ahead to see if that works?
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's why you're in charge. That's why you're in command, sir. So I plug it in and I do my little scout thing to move double, so I move forward and then come back.
So
to report.
As you come out, there's one of these podiums that has the floating gem above it, like just as soon as you exit that hallway, and you can see this pseudopod type creature just kind of stuck to it. There's a bunch of other slimes that are inside the water, moving around and kind of wiggling, and you can see that there's the other 4 pillars there, or the other 3 pillars that are inside the water, and then the one at the top of the pyramid, just as Lillet said. And you can hear the hum even through your earphones. It's this deep, and it actually cuts your movement in half. Essentially, you can only move near. So your device that allows you to move multiple times, You get 2 near movements instead.
Okay. Yeah, so I think as soon as I feel like the pressure, like, oh, well, this is weird. You know, I get in and no, I mean, normally with the device, I can do like an action between the moves. That's as long as it's not a combat action.
Can. It's just your moves are only near now.
Okay, so I want to go ahead and try and use my true sight again.
Okay.
Just to see what I can see with my super scat powers.
A few moments after activating it, you can see these 4 glowing green gems that are in the corners and the central gem all kind of glow with this like golden energy to reveal that there's something hidden about them.
Okay.
You can also see the shifting cubes within the water there, and they seem to be moving in concentric rings around the pyramid.
Okay. All right. Then I will take the rest of my move to kind of move back towards the hall to try and tell my comrades what I've seen.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna open it up because of our discussion we had during the break. So viewers are aware. Essentially, everything goes in initiative order, and I've been keeping to that for the book because it's our first time playing, and I wanted to play it to the book. After discussion, we all like role playing, so we're gonna open up these scenes instead of keeping them in turn order. That way, conversations can feel natural.
Okay. Cool. So I look at my archer friend and I say, Jack, there are these. Well, first of all, when I got into the room, there was some overwhelming force slowing me, and there are these strange crystals floating around concentrically. I think we're going to need your sharp eyes and your keen bow to take out these floating crystals that are in there. You'll probably see them as soon as you enter the chamber.
For clarification,
I think
the slimes are moving concentrically around the pyramid, but the crystals are staying above their podiums.
Oh, okay, excellent, even better. There are these crystals. I think they may have something to do with the power that's happening here. This feels like magic.
Well, if they do have something with that wretched noise, I'd be glad to do anything I can to take them out. Kind of hefts his bow, his long bow in his hand. If you can keep any of those things away from me, I'll do what I can to get rid of those crystals, and hopefully that'll alleviate our little noise problem.
Yeah.
How slow is it going in there?
It's going slow. I mean, I am, as you know, swift as usually. I can move twice as fast as a normal tall folk, and frankly, I could only move half as much as I used to.
Lillet seems to nod in agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, so the plugs, the rag plugs, didn't seem to help.
No. Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, definitely my movement was definitely slowed, but my mind felt keen. Would that be true, DM?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's really happening here is the sound is making it hard for you to concentrate on things. Like, you were still sharp enough to kind of be able to make decisions, but like, your body was hesitant to move underneath the sound. It's magic in origin. You can tell that from going through there.
Okay, so I look at Cyric and say, no, my friend, I don't think that these cloth earbuds will do much good.
Okay. Well, what I think we should do is, you said that there's four gems that are hovering. Maybe we come in and 3 of us assault the base of the first one, as Jack fires off hopefully 2, and see if he can knock out at least one of them, hopefully 2 of them, and that can start our volley. So at least we're hitting at least knocking out one of them, and then moving from there. I would say that Jack would preferably knock out at least one of them. If he knocks out two, then we're in good shape. If he knocks out just one, then we move to the third one to take that out. Just concentrate our efforts from there, and then I'll move to the fourth one to do that. I would imagine that we're going to have to start fighting off the slugs as soon as we start making all this noise, though. So that's going to be slow going as we go. So just as you get engaged, how hard are these to fight, Lillet?
The slimes are a nuisance. They're more of a threat than they are hard to kill. They're acidic in nature. They did this damage to my sword, and she kind of shows you these like burned in melted metal chips that have been taken out of the sword. I'll move to the crystal the furthest in the back.
Then maybe what we should do is just have Jack focus fire on just range killing the slugs, so that we don't have to deal with them. What do you think? And then we focus on these towers, these obelisk things sticking out of the ground.
Well, I too have a bow. I can try and work on the slugs as well. And if you're going further in, Sadiq, I can give you my staff, to help to beat on the slugs. So just a common stick if it breaks. Surely I can find another.
Lillet,
that's very kind of you.
Lillet kind of nods, and she says, I think the noise emanates from the crystals. They should be our first priority.
I agree. And Jack kind of holds up his bow. This can shoot a lot further than your little bow there, friend. No harm meant in that statement. I'll focus on the crystals in the back. Oh, okay. It is. I thought you said it was a short bow. Okay. Either way. He says that anyways because I don't care about mechanics.
Okay.
It's an amazing feat to watch, though.
So if you're focusing on the back too, then Lillet will go to one of the close ones, or the closest one, since there's one by the hallway, and then Bing can hit the other close one that's a little further away.
Perhaps we can focus on the crystals while Sadiq holds the line against the slugs.
I can do that.
Okay.
So I will begin moving forward then with his staff, and I will protect them as they focus fire on the obelisk.
Excellent. So we're going to go back into turn order as the room opens up here, and Sariq, it opens up with you kind of moving into the scene of this great pyramid and these floating crystals inside here. What would you like to do?
I am going to shout a battle cry, a challenge to my foes, and at least those that are near to me, and trying to draw them up to me and attack me. So kind of taunting them. Come forth, vile beasts of acid. And I guess that would be... I guess I'm trying to intimidate them, so I got with my Amulet of the Kings, and
okay.
So that's a total of an 18.
Okay. With an 18, they start kind of moving towards you because you're taunting them, and moments later, something that Ben was not prepared for, but he's the first to witness in horror. Two of the shamblers rise up out of the water as if being summoned by Sarik's taunt. Ben, it's your turn.
All right, let's get these crystals. And I fire towards the nearest crystal with my longbow.
Okay.
but I probably missed because I rolled a 10.
Unfortunately, you do. And the chaos of the scene that's around you and witnessing the Shamblers come up, your aim is not quite true, and you just barely miss the crystal. Jack, you're up.
Yeah, Jack will follow suit as well, kind of falling in down the hallway towards the opening end of this chamber, readying up his bow, taking aim at the furthest crystal, so one of the either the back, left, or right.
Okay.
Pulling out another snake fang arrow that he found earlier on. All right, and that is a 22 total on the die, but unfortunately that is a 1 on my magical effort die.
Okay. Fortunately for you, though, that is all you need to be able to shatter this crystal, and it pops like it was made of just a very weak glass into a shimmering bit of light. There was a slime that was attached to the podium that the crystal was at, and it was kind of undulating underneath it. Once the crystal shatters, the bits of crystal land on the slime, and it starts dissolving into a pile of acidic black goo underneath there. The podium's completely destroyed, and you can hear this kind of low kind of emerge from somewhere within the pyramid. Next up is going to be me. Shamblers are going to move in on Sarek, and they are going to come at you with a 4. Does that beat you or your armor?
My armor is 11.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So, they go to bite at you, and one of them gets stuck on your gauntlet, and you're just kind of shaking them back. They're getting on top of you, but they're not doing anything. The slimes move in as well, and one of them stretches out one of its pseudopods to you. It's going to attempt to try and grapple you. That was an 11 for his strength here. Let me see here. So it just has to go against your armor, it looks like. And then we do a contested strength to see if you break out.
Okay, is that on my turn or right
now? It
now?
will be on your turn.
Okay.
Or sorry, it's not contested. It's just against the room DC. Easy enough. So it is your turn. There is a pseudopod that is kind of sticky hand onto you. You've got 2 Shamblers that are gnawing uselessly against your armor.
Okay. I'd like to do something creative if I could present it to you and you tell me what you think.
Sure.
I would like to take the staff and sort of flip it up so that I'm flicking the one off of me, and then just take the staff in a wide arc, and I'm not looking to do damage, just more push them back.
Distance.
Yeah, so I don't know how you want to do that. Maybe, not necessarily doing damage, just pushing them back at this point.
I think it's going to be a strength against the target number, and we'll say if you exceed, you push them back a good enough distance that they become far from you.
Okay. I rolled a natural 1.
All right. Unfortunately, that will not be able to beat 12 unless you got some really powerful items I'm unaware of.
No, I think that there's something in the rules for a 1, isn't there?
Unless I missed that bit. Ben, is there something about 1s inside the rules?
As a plugin, you can do what's called a roll for blunder. So after you roll a natural 1, you roll again to see if you get another 1. And if you do, the DM will commit some kind of horrible punishment for rolling 2 1s in a row.
Sure, let's do that.
Yeah,
I got a 5 on the second one.
Okay.
So,
yay!
In my attempt that maybe I was able to get the suction cup off of me, but in the process, I just kind of stopped on the first one and kind of lost my footing in this water, and I'm unbalanced, and but in the process, I'm going to at least try to yell out a battle cry to my allies, actually to my enemies, and Well, but call out a battle cry to my enemies and say, "Keep moving! Keep moving!"
Okay. So are you doing the Titans battle cry? So it's a -3 to all their stuff now, correct?
I'm gonna give, since I failed against them. I'm thinking I'm trying to say, "Hey, I'm sacrificing myself for you. Don't let me die in vain," so
Okay,
to speak.
gotcha.
So giving them a +3 at least.
Okay, then all the allies, including Lizette, when we get around to her, will get a bonus. Speaking of Lizette, I'm just going to insert her between Sarek and Ben, because I kind of forgot to do her during my turn. She begins moving out towards the second furthest out crystal. She gets about halfway there, and she's kind of slashing as she goes into the water, chopping at pseudopods that are trying to attach themselves to her. Next up is Ben.
Okay. Ben's looking at the furthest crystal out, because he's pretty certain that Jack is more likely to hit, to be able to get multiple hits in, and so he flops on his back with his longbow and uses his legs to push the bow out and pulls the string way back so he can fire it real far, aiming at the furthest crystal.
Okay.
15.
15
Plus
hit.
4. Yeah.
So any effort will destroy it because it's got 1 hit point. It shatters, and again the slime that was attached to the podium ends up melting the podium, and those 2 pillars are down. Another kind of death throw type scream emanates from the pyramid as we kind of pan to, and Jack's already lined up his first shot.
Yeah, he's already ready. Another snake fang arrow, knocked in his bow. You said I get some sort of bonus from Sarik right now. Is that correct? All right, so perfect. With that, I have a total of a +6 mod then, which will put me at a 13.
Excellent.
Nice.
So with a 13, you were able to strike the crystal you aim at. So that one will shatter again. Scream from the temple because you're aiming for the ones that are on the ground. The 2 crystals that are left is 1 more at ground level and the 1 at the top. Also with this 3rd scream, bits of like dirt and gravel from the ceiling of this place begin to kind of shake and rumble their way down.
Didn't Lillet say that she was going for the one in the back?
Lillet was going for the 2nd closest one.
Okay.
And she begins moving towards it again, but she gets wrapped up into a pseudopod that's kind of grappling her. She's about a near distance away from the crystal, but she's having to deal with this acidic cube trying to devour her. So she's going to spend her whole turn basically fighting back this cube. A few moments later, she's able to destroy it, but she's lost the opportunity to go after that crystal right away. Next up is Sarek.
Okay, so I have got this swarm around me, and does she look like she needs help, or she seems to be handling them well enough?
It seems to be like what she said before. They're more of a nuisance than they are anything else. She's got a couple of them around her, and she's going to have to deal with them to deal with that crystal. The other crystal is the one on top of the pyramid, but she doesn't look like she's completely like swamped by him. The 2 shamblers that were on top of you have gotten up. They kind of got knocked around a little bit with your last maneuver, but they're still nearby.
All right. I'm going to try another.
They lashed out at you and failed.
I'm going to try another wide arcing sweep to try to keep them off of me. And this time I have a total of a 12. So right on the nose.
Okay. So for the Titans thing, I believe it's for the turn, and that he can do it each turn, but that will consume his turn, kind of thing. All
Okay.
right. So, I'm sorry, Sarek, your roll was?
My roll was a total of a 12.
12. Perfect. You hit the number, so go ahead and do some effort, because this will damage them as well as do what you're looking for to push them back.
Okay. So total of 4 points of damage.
Excellent. The cubes kind of shatter underneath your strikes, or sorry, the shamblers shudder underneath your strikes, and then eventually fall apart into piles of dust, bone, and other things. You see that there are some items that were inside probably their chest that fall into the water as well.
Interesting. And I shout to him, "Keep moving, keep moving."
Okay. As you shout, another shambler rises from the waters. Ben, you're next.
Okay. I've lost track. So how many slimes are left? Like, is the one still grappling Sarek?
There's one that's on the podium that's has the crystal still, and then
Right.
there's an innumerable amount inside the water.
Okay.
They're a nuisance to be dealt with through another mean besides fighting them to death.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna leave the crystal that's way up high for our archer, and I want to instead take a shot at that crystal that our comrade
That Liet's
was
struggling to get
Liet,
to.
Liet was trying to get to, so that I can free her up to help defend against the shamblers that are coming up.
Okay.
So make it count. Mod 12.
All right, so then you'll hit.
Yeah, it's
The
barely.
amount of effort destroys it, so it is destroyed. With that, you hear one more scream. I am going to roll the end of session die. There'll be 2 rounds before the session is over. The roof above you begins crumbling, and let me switch this real quick here. Liet screams out in pain, echoing the same as the temple. One of the stones falls and hits the big crystal that's at the top, shattering it, and you see Liet's form twist and shape into that of one of the serpent folk, which you know as Sarvas. He carries a powerful bow and a quiver now that the illusion has been broken, and it wails out in pain as like more bricks and stonework continues to fall. You have 2 turns to grab stuff and get out, and narrate with some fun rolls. Our target number is going to go down to 10, by the way, for this. For anything that seems especially dangerous that we should roll for. The first up is going to be Jack.
Yeah. So, seeing Liet's form twist into this serpent, it's now howling in pain, the roof falling, just everything going to hell. Jack will immediately, that same panic reflex will kick in, and he'll immediately begin trying to sprint away, trying to find some way to get out of here. Just ignoring literally anything else that might happen.
Okay. So you begin sprinting out. Go ahead and give me a dex against the 10, and this will kind of let me know how much to safety you're able to get.
That is a 12 total.
Okay. So you're able to kind of get back into that that hallway that led into this chamber, and it seems like that area is mostly safe. But but you can see your companions inside the other chamber and the flopping around dying serpent creature. From there, Sarek, it is your turn.
How many crystals were we able to knock down?
You knocked down 4, and then all hell kind of broke loose, and the 5th one was destroyed by the collapsing ceiling.
Okay. With a vow, he picks up his hammer and he says, "Vile beast, you will hinder this earth no longer." And he rears back and he flings his hammer at the serpentine woman.
Perfect. This is the end. I'm not having you roll anything for it. The hammer smashes into the serpentine creature's face. It's like this cyclopean creature with like Medusa hair, kind of like the card that you can see now. The hammer just smashes in, and we can hear the bone crackling sounds as the cranium just crumples underneath the weight of it. The creature slumps on the ground and stops screaming. It's finally dead. The building, the structure above the pyramid is still caving in above you. You do have a few moments to be able to grab something from its corpse and move on if you want. As I mentioned, it has a quiver that seems to be magic type arrows, kind of similar to what Jack had earlier, and a pretty fancy bow.
I am going to grab the bow then and begin making my way to the hallway.
Excellent.
And I'm going to yell to Ben, "Get the quiver if you can. If not, keep moving."
So just to let you guys know, for each crystal that was destroyed, there's treasure, and then there's also the quiver, which the treasure for each crystal, there's basically the podium melted away, and there's a box underneath each one. So, Ben, you're next up.
Yeah, Ben is going to go for the quiver, the known loot, and he uses his double move to like book it there, grab it, and then book it out.
Excellent. It's 20 magic arrows. Same style that Jack picked up before. Jack, you've made it to the safety, and Sarek is the only one who's trailing a little bit behind. The humming noise stopped when the center crystal was destroyed, so Sarek's moving at the appropriate amount of distance per turn. It's just he had a little bit further to go before he got there. It is your turn. You can see that there is a chest that's glimmering fairly close to you that you could get to and back to safety this round if you wanted to. By the way, the clock has been moved forward 1 turn.
I'm actually going to say, even in this scenario, Jack's just going to keep running. Like, this place has like freaked him out enough times. He wants to be out of it, and he's just ready to go. So ignoring any glimmers or treasures that he might be able to grab, he's just trying to get the hell out of this place.
Okay. So next up is Sarek. More chunks of the ceiling falling. You can see the rays of sunlight coming through from the desert sun just above you. It's kind of this rosy color as the sunset's happening.
Yeah, and as he's bounding forward, he is sprinting as fast as he can as rubble is falling all around him, and he's just, in his mind's eye, he's kind of imagining just one of those rocks falling and crushing him. And so the only thing he is seeing is the dim light that's coming from the portal that is the exit. So he is sprinting as fast as he can, abstaining from all other actions. Double banana.
All right.
Excellent. Next up is Ben.
And so I imagine that that Sarek and Jack are running, and they just see this little man covered in rags race past them at double speed, looking out as he goes for threats and such, so you can shout back so that they have some warning.
Okay. So we are out of the end of die turn. I think that what's going to end up happening is you guys make it out of there, but there's a question of if you guys were able to find a way back out because you took a one-way trip to get here. A few days passes, and finally we see you guys covered in kind of the gore and dust of what used to be this tomb, finally emerging out of the entrance that Lillet must have taken to get down here. It's a safe staircase that enters into a storehouse that's just outside of the village to the east. Kind of coughing and laughing to each other, you come up. The bow that you received is called the bow of... where'd it go? I'm on the wrong table now. Bow of Eagles. You guys probably won't use this again since it's a one-shot, but I'm just going to tell you what it was. It's a weapon with dex of 12 with 2 hearts, and you get to use if you use an extra turn aiming, you do double damage. So kind of a handy little sniper's bow. And then, of course, the 20 magic arrows. With that said, I think that's where the camera's going to fade out, seeing that you're all safe and sound, if not for kind of coughing out dust as you leave. With that said, guys, that's everything for this adventure. I did take a few liberties on the adventure for anybody who's following along at home, like the entrance to the cave. And I did follow one of the suggestions to make Lillet become Sarvis at the end, and I thought that was a really cool way to make her come back so she wasn't just a weird NPC at the beginning.
Yeah.
How'd you guys like it?
Oh man, I thought we were all going to die in the trap room with the gas. I thought little X's were going to be all over our eyes. Like, okay, we're done.
Yeah, like I read the trap room and it's like, yeah, so when this happens, roll 4d4. And I was like, man, that's going to make quick work of them.
Yeah.
It's 1d4 per snakehead. And I was like, man, if they step on that pressure plate, it's done. And of course you wanted to poke the pressure plate, so...
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of like old school D&D days where you had the pole and try and set the trap off, you know?
Like a swinging log is what you were expecting, and instead I was
yeah,
like,
you never know, right?
What's funny is one of the GMs that I normally play with, his favorite trap is a swinging bear trap, which sounds terrible because you think of like a bear trap. No, it's basically a bear that has been tied to the ceiling that swings out at you. So an angry grizzly bear swipes at you as it pendulums across the room.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, feel free to take that and use it wherever you want. It's a good surprise to players the first time it happens.
It's definitely not a grim tooth.
Any other opinions on the game? I think the big takeaway that we had was this table happens to be full of people that like role-playing, so going in turn order for everything was a little bit not to our play style, so I think we're going to go wibbly-wobbly time next time we play for in between the turns. But other than that, I had a lot of fun with the game. I thought it was really cool because the scenes and the obstacles went very quick, but they were still pretty complicated. Even in Theater of the Mind, I hope I conveyed enough stuff so that you guys were able to figure out the puzzles and stuff like that. Like, I purposely picked this adventure for 2 reasons. 1, I haven't seen anybody else run it, and 2, it's a lot of traps, and traps are like the hardest thing to do in Theater of the Mind, so I wanted to play with it and try and see what I could do with it.
Yeah, one thing that I think is cool about the pacing in ICRPG is that it definitely keeps things on pace. Not to overuse the word, but it keeps things going, and that's one of the benefits. Of course, the other side of that is the drawback that people feel awkward in trying to interject RP and banter. So I agree. I think that during those times where there's counters and you're like, okay, you're gonna die, you don't have time. You have time for like a split-second speech and then move on. That's perfect. But those times where it's like you're sitting against the wall, you know, you're at the base of the stairs or whatever, and you're like, oh, we got out. That's the time, you know, it's perfect for like, okay, what's going through your head, or, you know, we're in open conversation at this point.
Yeah.
Any opinions, Jeff?
I mean, I basically agree with everything that's said so far. Like the initiative thing is really good for pacing during encounters, and then like definitely for anything that I can say against it in the RP side, I can put for it in the sense of it like it creates a very specific and strict game flow that gets things done. Like,
Yeah.
like this encounter is going to be resolved quickly, or you guys are going to die trying. Like, there's no in between or waffling around with it. Like, it forces action to continue to happen, which like that I can get behind, because like game flow for me is a huge factor on whether or not I enjoy a game. But knowing when to pull back on the flow and let it breathe a little bit is like just as important as knowing when to keep things moving. And that's where I feel like the initiative thing kind of can get in the way, where it's like we're just trying to like explore this room. There's no urgent need to be in any hurry, and yet like we're having to constantly take all these different specific actions, and it's like, you know, times like that is when you can kind of let it breathe a little bit and talk and have conversation and things like that.
I think the next one shot I do is going to be more of like how I typically run 5e games, which is like it's open unless there's something of consequence happening. Once consequence happens, that's when turns come in, and I think that'll scratch that itch for the RPers inside there.
Yeah.
With that said,
I think like once. No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, with that said, I mean, I already mentioned it, that this is available on Drive-Thru RPG for anybody who's watched and has been interested in it. And the cool thing is any of the updates, like if there's a new setting that gets released, that actually gets released with the book. So it's actually a pretty cool purchase because it is growing. And he does monthly updates, if I remember right. I read that when I made the purchase. I haven't gotten any of the updates just yet, but I know that Hankrin is really big about finding ways to improve the game left and right. His Google community is a good sign of like all the work that he's put into it and continues to put into it. Ben mentioned that at one point, that if you want help with the community or with anything as far as like learning how to do the game or anything, the community is really good about that. So one more time, just around the corner, or around the circle here. I know you guys have YouTubes. I put not on Twitter because some of you guys are not on Twitter, but we do have channels that we do. Let's start with Dave.
Again, my name is Dave, and I have a YouTube channel named Mornblade Gaming. And if you're so inclined, check it out. It's been fun playing with these guys. This is the first time I've had Chris as a DM, and first time playing with Jason. Multiple times playing with Jeff. I need to get in a game with him as a DM, but my schedule's been crazy with work lately. But I'm trying to have to pick and choose. But I will play with you, bud. So, yeah. Again, it was fun playing the ICRPG group in a game, and I think it's awesome that this has been released to the gaming community, and definitely worth checking out and putting your money towards it. Even if you buy the PDF, like Chris said, you know, the updates will be coming. I think it's been a little delayed because he just went to Gen Con, but I'm sure more will be coming.
Yeah, he probably brought home a whole bunch of good ideas from Gen Con. I'm starting to wish that I had done that, because maybe I could have avoided the hurricane and been like, I guess I don't go home this week. Next up, Jason.
All right. Again, my name is Jason Scranton. I have a YouTube channel called Roll for Effort. It's something I'm doing with a friend of mine named Austin. He's my technomancer. And we just record and share our ICRPG games. We're going to have one that we're hoping to air on Pirates Day with Hank and possibly DM Scotty. So pretty excited about that. And you know, like Jeff was saying, the PDF is the way to go, because that's how you can get the updates that are coming up. And then I believe Hank also has a world book scheduled to come out later this year that's going to be totally rad. It's going to have a Western theme setting in it as well too, which is really cool.
Yep, that's where I say take my money, because that's the one setting I'm waiting for Blades of the Dark. I love Western games. They never get enough love.
Exactly. Shut up and take my money. Just take it.
Jeff.
Yes, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel called Encounter Balance. Feel free to check it out if you're interested. I'm going to be running a game actually on Tuesday, a D&D 5e game where the players are going to be playing with the commoner stat blocks, so they'll have 4 HP, 10 in every stat, trying to survive a Viking raid. So if you want to see people get massacred and have no chance, then feel free to check that out.
Nice.
After
But
playing
yeah,
ICRPG, it feels like this would be a good one for playing villagers too. Just take away their
Yeah.
items. It's basically the same.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I mean, as far as the system goes, like it was definitely interesting to give it a try. I don't know that it'll ever be my system of choice, but there's things that I can take from this that I think will be able to enhance other systems that I like. So I think it's good to get the experience and kind of see what I like about it, see what I don't, and use that to take away to my other games. So I enjoyed it. Always, for the people of you that I've played with, Chris, Dave, it's always a pleasure. Nice to play with you as well, Jason. But yeah, I had a great time with it.
Yeah, you guys are all right. I'd play with you anytime.
All right, guys. With that said, thanks for tuning in, and as always, we'll see you at the gaming table.